Max, thank you for the way in which you chanted so beautifully from the Torah this morning and offered your own thoughtful and perceptive comments in your Devar Torah. Last night you read and sang part of the Erev Shabbat service in your clear Hebrew, and I know how grateful you are to Dov, your teacher, for all that he has taught you. He's gone with the rest of the classes, but he was here, be assured. Although you've lived in Zurich these past 4 years, your family has been incredibly loyal to the LJS. It has been so gratifying knowing how important this community is to your family. And I hope that as you, Olivia, approach the age of Bat Mitzvah, you too will be drawn to celebrate this important Jewish milestone in your life. Your Torah portion this morning, Max, is probably one of the most significant stories in the Bible. As you said, Tol'dot means generations, and indeed a new generation is born. Isaac and Rebekah produced their twin sons, Esau and Jacob. And as you explain, there is a deep and tragic split in the family. Isaac favors Esau because he is an outdoors type, hunting game, while Rebekah favors Jacob, a homespun man, keeping to the tents. Later in Jewish history and beyond, this story becomes the focus of a deep and long-lasting hostility between the descendants of the two brothers, first between the Israelites and Edomites, then between the Jewish people and Rome, and later when the Emperor Constantine converted to Christianity, both Christians and Jews claim the name Jacob or Israel for themselves. And this hostility is read back into the story of this early jealousy between the brothers. But I don't think this is the only way to interpret the story, which, as you said, ends in reconciliation between Esau and Jacob. And it was something you said to me on Thursday, Max, that made me read this story in a rather different light. You mentioned your interest in zoology and how you love watching wildlife documentaries, and mentioned Barack Obama's narration of the 5-part documentary on 7 of the world's largest national parks. After our conversation, I returned to your parashah, and what struck me was the description of these 2 boys as they enter their teenage years and then young adulthood. Esav, ish sadeh, yodeat sayid. Esau, a man of the field, a man of outdoors, who was a skillful hunter. And Jacob, ish tam, yoshev ohalim, a homespun, simple, single-minded man, keeping to the tents. And I wondered, to what extent did these different environments in which these 2 boys grew up and were attracted to influence the kinds of people they were to become? The medieval commentators and midrashim are not necessarily helpful here because of the stereotypical ways in which they categorize both Esau and Jacob. Esau without a regular job, truanting, spending his days outside hunting animals, a wild child. Jacob, they said, was studious with his books, intense, interpreted by Sforno, the 15th to 16th century Italian scholar, to refer not only literally to the tents, the homes of our patriarchs and matriarchs, but to the temple. Jacob, he said, encouraged people to become close to God. But these are later projections back into the story of your Torah portion. They don't really, truthfully, represent the characters of Esau or Jacob as we encounter them in the pages of the Torah. After all, who is the arch deceiver if not Jacob? That's the very meaning of his name. Yaakov means a heel, the cunning trickster who cheats his older brother out of his birthright and the blessing reserved for the older son. What if Esau, Ish Sadeh, a man of the field, a man of the outdoors, is most in tune with the natural environment, with the open-air spaces around him? He would have noticed the imperceptible changes of the seasons and weather. He would have known the names of the trees and the flora and fauna around him. He would have recognized the creatures with which he shared this outdoor space. And yes, he would have hunted them as game and fed them to his father. We could argue that he might have hunted them to extinction, that he was a man unaware of his environmental footprint. But what if he is the archetype of an early environmentalist? As the COP30 summit in Belém comes to an end, with its detailed discussions about how to conserve the world's important forests in order to tackle climate change, I came across an article which focused on two environmentalists, both working to address the climate catastrophe. Here is what Damien Carrington wrote in a newsletter called Down to Earth. It is easy, he said, to criticize the UN climate conferences, but unless you've been, there's one wonderful, almost miraculous thing that you may not be aware of. It is a beautiful gathering of humanity, people from virtually every country on earth, all thrown together in common cause. What's more, many are incredibly smart, passionate, and dedicating their lives to fighting the climate crisis. The more of them you meet, the more your hope grows that global heating can be defeated. He focused on two remarkable young climate activists, Juan Carlos Monterrey Gomez, the Special Representative for Climate Change for Panama, and Aisha Siddiqa, an American Pakistani law student in Los Angeles, who at 26 has already been advisor to the UN Secretary General and a commissioner for the International Energy Agency. Both confront the truth of the climate catastrophe head on. Greenhouse gases have doubled in their use. Fossil fuels, says Gomez, are making the planet hotter. They need to be phased out. He continues, the climate crisis, the biodiversity crisis, the land crisis, the ocean crisis, the plastic pollution crisis, they're all the same crisis. They are the product of an economic system that favors unhinged production, that pollutes everything in its way to the detriment of humans. Aisha Siddiqa's focus is on future generations and tackling the climate crisis from a legal standpoint through something called Future Generations Tribunal, which she founded. There is legal innovation, she says, happening in the Amazon, in New Zealand, to give legal personhood to rivers, to whales, so that they can stand in front of a court of law and ask for justice. But future generations, she went on, don't have that personhood. She sees her role as combating large corporations through the courts and securing a healthy environment for future generations. Closer to home, I met a young woman this week who is involved in an organization called Rewild Yourself. The charity is creating forests in different parts of the UK, most recently in Nottingham, planted with the help of local schools and community groups. How critical it is, she told me, for everyone, wherever they live, whatever their age, culture, gender, and socio-economic status, to have access to nature, to connect with the natural world. Access to the beauty of nature, she explained, is a human right. The Rewild Yourself program helps people who may have little connection to nature because of where they live, to use their imagination through beauty, through their senses and emotion, meaning and compassion, to discover a sense of aliveness and awe that nature allows us to feel. Esau may have been impulsive, a creature of human appetites, but I wonder if those early years of being outside, in such close proximity to the natural world, gave him some kind of ethical sensitivity, so that when the time came and the brothers were reconciled, it was Esau who ran to meet Jacob, who embraced him first and fell on his neck and kissed him. And Jacob, the homespun man living in tents, there's a different kind of sensitivity. It takes a calamitous uprooting of everything he knows, catapulting him alone out into the world beyond home, a night under the stars with a stone as a pillow, and a dream to open him up to the awe of something much greater than himself. Ma nora hamakom hazeh. How full of awe is this place, he utters as he awakens from his dream of a stairway to heaven. These are not the only narratives that make us aware of our relationship with nature and the beauty and peace that it offers to us. The authors of the Torah lived close to the earth. They witnessed at close hand the turning of the seasons and harvested their land, depending on its produce from year to year. They were all Anshe Sadeh, men of the field, pastoralists, farmers, poets, who drew on the imagery of the world around them, the sky and earth, rivers and seas, the air they breathed, the animals among whom they lived. More than that, the Torah has given us a set of laws about justice and compassion, instructing us not to destroy trees in times of warfare, about kindness to animals, about not wasting the earth's resources, and about our responsibility to the planet, observing its boundaries and promising to care for it for future generations. Judaism offers us a way of conquering selfishness, greed, and apathy. The teachings enshrined in the Torah can inspire us to embrace a better version of ourselves and model different values in how we choose to live our lives and how we can care for our planet. Max, I want to address you by rephrasing the opening verses of your Torah portion. Eile Tol'dot Yitzchak, the same, Ben Leah, Raphael. This is your generation, Max, and the generation of your friends who are here with you and have traveled from many different places, including, of course, your school in Switzerland, to be with you today. They come from all over the world. It's a huge task to conserve the environment, as you said to me on Thursday, but we cannot leave it all to your generation. Your intelligence, your knowledge, your loyal and trustworthy personality your willingness to stand up for justice and truth, your care and passion for the earth and the diverse creatures that live on it. Give us hope that we can together create a world in which we restore our respect for nature and all its creatures, human and otherwise.